Well, good afternoon. This is the Regional Housing Council. It is Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. It is 4 p.m. The chair, Michael Outhauser, is excused for this meeting, and I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the alternate for Thurston County. So we'll go ahead and start with introductions. And so we'll start with the City of Olympia.
Hi, I'm Danny Madrone with the Olympia City Council, and I'm joined by Darian Lightfoot, Jacinda Stelgis, and Jay Burney.
Thank you. City of Lacey.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Cox, representing City of Lacey, and I am joined by Ryan Andrews. And Ryan, are we going to have anybody else on the call today?
I'm expecting Councilmember Kathy. Just as a way of introduction, I guess Brad Medry, Planning Manager, City of Tumwater, joined today by our Housing and Land Use Planner, Erica Smith-Erickson.
Awesome. Great. Okay. And I'm not seeing anyone from the City of Yelm. Okay, so then I'll go ahead and introduce for Thurston County. We have Tom Webster, we have Elisa Sparkman, we have Rob Gelder, and we have Commissioner Klaus and Leah and Alex. Sorry, they started popping up right now. Okay. Did I miss anyone from Thurston County? Okay, perfect. With that, we'll go ahead and review the agenda. And okay, we have Gary Cooper who just joined us from City of Yelm. Okay, are there any items that need to be removed from the agenda? Did everyone get a chance to review it?
I move approval.
Okay, perfect. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? Okay, the agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the July 24th meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Cox and seconded by Councilwoman Madrone. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Anyone against? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to public comment. And we did have people register for public comment. So Leah.
Hi, yes, we have two registered for public comment, Alan Vargas and Chanel Sims, but they are currently not in the attendees list.
Okay.
So would you like me, if they do show up, to notify you at the end of the meeting if there's time?
Yeah, that would be great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And we just had Shirley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name is Charlia Messenger.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. No worries. My pronouns are they, them, and in this context, I am the board chair of the Thurston Affordable Housing Advisory Board.
Thank you. And thank you for correcting me. Okay. We'll go ahead and move to the next item, which is Opportunity Fund request. And Jacinda and Charlia.
Yes. I'm just pulling up my notes from my meeting regarding it. So just to provide a little background for y'all on the which is also in the staff report. Thank you, Jacinda and Alex and Leah. So anyway, to background on the Opportunity Fund request, this was made to kind of deal like as an opportunity for folks who aren't able to for emergent funding projects that aren't able to do the RHE's annual request for proposals. We recently received our first Opportunity Fund request. We had a great discussion regarding what is emergent versus not emergent. and because of the immediate need for supportive housing, along with the timeline of acquisition for the Family Support Center project, we determined that this was an emergent need. So they applied, Family Support Center requested 1 million for a 3-acre parcel to use immediately as a low-income supportive housing project for I think between 5 and 10 units. Sorry, I don't have that number right. Oh, yes. 2-bedroom units, a 3-bedroom single family home, and a 1-bedroom single family home, and then with an 8-year timeline to develop it into a larger housing project. I'll also add, just for transparency's sake, this was not a unanimous decision. There was some concern about concentrating low-income housing in one area, but we did have very good discussion and resolution around many of the concerns that any board members brought up.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions or any other information that needs to be added? Okay, any question? Oh, go ahead, Carolyn.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent project. I just have a question about funding. Staff notes here that we would have about 400,000 left. Do you know at what point in 2025 we would get that funding replenished?
I believe it's the beginning of 2025. Jacinda?
Hi, Carolyn, the short answer is yes, the beginning of 2025. I do want to remind the board though, the council, excuse me, this funding, as all of our funding, is projected amounts collected. So this is sales and use tax funding, and well, most of this is, yes, our home fund, our sales and use tax. So it's all projection. So it kind of comes in continually, but there would essentially be more funding available for the next program year, January through December, beginning in January.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Any additional questions?
Just there to jump in one. Sorry, I saw Councilmember Drum raise their hand, so I don't want to.
Go ahead, Tom.
In the packet, and Leah, if you could pull up the language again, we did make a slight edits to the language of the motion and the recommendation coming from the Affordable Housing Board versus what was in your packet. The Affordable Housing Board did recommend some conditions to move forward. The language in your packet has that kind of conditional language going to the Board of County Commissioners, rather than bringing something to the Board of County Commissioners that indicates a conditional award. We're going to incorporate those conditions into the contract with Family Support Center. So just a little bit of that language of where those conditions will be applied. We're not going to require them to meet those conditions before the contract is awarded, but those conditions would be incorporated into the contract as part of the funding. So just wanted to clarify that, as the language is a little different than what went out with your packet.
Tom, are you saying the language that's on the screen is a little bit different than what's in our packet?
Correct.
It would be great if we could zoom in on that, because I cannot see what that says.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Danny, and then Jacinda.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions about this. I feel good about this request. I did want to just, congratulate us for creating this opportunity fund, because, the challenge with our timeline for funding process is that it doesn't allow us to be flexible with emergent issues unless we put some funding aside to be able to be responsive. And I also just wanted to respond to the concerns around like concentration of low-income housing in one area. And I think that's a very real concern. I know there are a lot of other things that we're doing in Olympia to integrate low-income housing across the community. And also there's just not a whole lot of developable 3-acre parcels in the city of Olympia where we can do large-scale projects like this. So we do need to be able to jump on opportunities when they arise like this. So I wanted to acknowledge that concern and also say that there's many things that are happening in Olympia, and it is certainly our goal that that we integrate, mixed income housing across our community to the best of our ability with the limited land that we have to be developed.
Thank you, Danny. Jacinda?
Thank you, Chair. Was just going to add that staff did reach out to Family Support Center and they're aware of the conditions, didn't have any issues with them, and the feedback was these are all things that they had already planned to do in their due diligence before continuing with the purchase and sell and kind of fully executing that document. So just wanted to let you know there are conditions. They are fully prepared and didn't have any concerns about those conditions, and the board is fully prepared to review what they send our way.
Jacinda, could you real quick just read off those conditions so people who are watching but maybe don't have the packet in front of them know what we're talking about?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so the property currently does have some structures that are currently occupied. So at some point when those structures, potentially when it's developed into a larger project, our board was concerned with making sure that there wasn't any displacement. So kind of wanted to make sure that, or the conditions are that Family Support Center has a relocation plan in place, that they are providing the leases for review of those current occupants. They have communicated that they don't have any plans on relocating them or kicking them out or anything like that. They would continue to serve them on their low income households already. And then the third one was a housing quality inspection of those existing units. So just making sure that before they purchase those, that they're in good condition and they're habitable and they're safe.
Thank you. Okay, any additional questions or comments on this item? Are we ready to proceed with the motion?
If we could zoom back in on that language, I'd be happy to read a motion.
I agree.
I'm on my laptop right now, so it's all small. I move to approve the funding award to the Family Support Center and recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that they also approve the funding award with the requirement that the conditions outlined by the Thurston Affordable Housing Advisory Board be included in the award contract between Family Support Center and the county.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anyone against? Nay? Okay. Thank you.
Just to clarify, Carolina, because you said aye and nay, that was a vote of support from you.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Just for the record.
Yes, it's a vote of support. Sorry if that was not clear. There were no nays. Okay. Moving on to our next item, the Black Home Initiative. And is Krista here?
Yeah, Leah, can you promote Krista? I think she's in the attendees.
Perfect.
I will do
Thank
that
you.
now.
Hello, Krista.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Krista Lenson from the city of Olympia. And just to recap, last month at the July RHC meeting, we had a briefing on the Black Home Initiative and just shared an update with Regional Housing Council on conversations we've been having locally with a representative from that group. And then RHC members were asked to bring information back to their respective governing bodies and have a conversation about whether or not they wanted to join on as partners. And I can also share that since the last RHC meeting, there was another meeting of that group of local stakeholders who decided to write a formal letter to the Black Home Initiative to request that they expand to Thurston County and partner with us. And so there were several organizations that are listed on the letter in your packet. And I just wanted to note that since your packet went out, Habitat for Humanity also signed on. So there are several nonprofit organizations, financial institution, and a real estate organization who signed on, in addition to the City of Olympia. And so today we were just hoping to get an update before we send that formal letter out to the Black Home Initiative requesting partnership. Wanted to revisit whether or not the RHC wants to sign on to that letter and whether any additional jurisdictions are interested in signing on individually. And the partner pledge for the Black Home Initiative was also attached to the packet in addition to that letter. So one other thing to note is that the Affordable Housing Advisory Board met since the last RHC meeting as well. And my understanding is that they unanimously recommended that the RHC sign on to that letter. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer those, but otherwise just wanted to open it up to get an update from the jurisdictions and have discussion among RHC members about signing on to the letter or the partner pledge.
Thank you. Any questions? Carolyn?
I just have one question. Being the unusual body that we are, that we're sort of a pass-through organization with county commissioners having to give final approval to any funding recommendations we make. What would be RHC's obligation or role if we were to join this?
So I think there's a few ways that the RHC could support. There's no like formal commitment of any funds or staff or other type of commitment.
Right.
So basically, there are ways that we envision the RHC could support, which could be, discussing any future funding priorities. Those would be subject to any review or recommendations by the advisory boards. Any future land banking that jurisdictions do or that the RHC does together. Staff time could be allotted to participate in some of the project teams. So those are just some examples, but joining the initiative, there's not like a specific dollar commitment or staff time commitment.
That part I understood. I just like whose staff time and that sort of thing. Since all of our jurisdictions form kind of the technical team and so I just wanted to get some clarity on that. And if with the chair's permission, I can update you on where Lacey is on this. I presented it to our city council at a meeting not long after we met. Our council did express interest in it. However, the city manager recommended that we have our Commission on Equity take a look at it and staff take a look at it and bring it back for a study session before we make a final decision. So that's a long way of saying we're interested, but we've got got some thinking to do.
Thank you. I guess I will look towards Olympia and Tumwater.
Olympia has already signed the pledge and is fully supportive of the RHC doing the same.
Okay, and Tumwater?
Speaking on behalf of Councilmember Kathy and Councilmember Althauser, last night I presented to a work session with the council, which was a full council in attendance, the proposal, the pledge, and what that could possibly entail. It was a work session, but the tenor of the meeting was the council is in support of this and support of having the RHC take the lead on this. They noted if there are requests for additional staff time and so forth, they would probably need to be approving that, as we would need to reallocate how those are currently allocated according to our work program.
Thank you. I guess from Thurston County's point, the board hasn't had an opportunity to discuss this. So I'm looking towards Rob to see if there's a possibility we can add this to one of our future work sessions, and not sure if we can have a presentation on this. So I'm
We'll forward the requests.
thank you. Okay, and let's see, so is there, I guess, do we want to move forward? Do we want to wait? Danny, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, it would be my recommendation that we as the RHC go ahead and sign on ourselves. I think that there are things that we can do as an interjurisdictional body. You know, we've talked about developing a policy platform together, and we can have this as an item that we discuss as we reevaluate our RFP on an annual basis. We can think about how we incorporate all of this in. Of course, a lot of the things that we do are in partnership with our advisory boards, and we do have the Affordable Housing Advisory Board asking us as the RHC to go ahead and sign on. You know, I think it's great that the other jurisdictions are considering it, but I think that we can also consider it separate from those decisions and say that, yeah, we think that this is really, really important for our region, and we'd like to figure out the role that our body can play in this.
Thank you. And I didn't mean to skip over Yelm. Gary, I'm not sure if you want to give Yelm's perspective as well.
Thanks, Carolina. Well, this has not been presented to our council, and as you can see, Trevor is not here today, and he's not going to be here. Apparently, he's been called away on military duty, so we're sort of in transition for our representative. My feedback to Krista has been all along, you know, given the resources that we have to devote to housing issues, we don't have a housing program in Yelm. I could see us being in support of the initiative, but it would probably primarily be in the form of moral support. When you need, you know, jurisdictions to partner in signing, you know, letters of support and things like that, I can't imagine Yelm would be opposed to doing that. But staffing resources would be pretty limited, except for maybe what I might be doing with the other tech team members through the RHC.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, Carolyn?
I think I noted, and Krista can confirm, that if a jurisdiction doesn't sign on it at this time, they're not precluded from joining it a little bit down the line. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So
Okay.
today it would be helpful to have some feedback on the letter that we're hoping to send out as a group. But that doesn't preclude any of the jurisdictions from deciding to sign the partner pledge and be part of the BHI partner network at a later date.
Okay. So the letter is in the packet. Is there any feedback, initial feedback for Krista? The letter looks good to me. I don't really have edits. Danny?
Yeah, I think that you know, if we're thinking that the letter looks good, and we see a role for the RHC to play here, you know, I'm willing to put forward a motion that we go ahead and sign on, and that we sign the pledge as a regional body, because like I said, there are things that we can do independent of the jurisdictions to support the initiative.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I'll go ahead and
definitely.
officially move that the RHC sign on to the letter that is presented in this packet to the BHI initiative, and sign the partner pledge.
I'll I'll cheerfully second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, have you all reached out to the Thurston County Housing Authority? And the reason I asked that is they seem very eager to be developing new housing as well. And that could provide another partner. I mean, I wouldn't suggest delaying today's vote for that, but it's just another voice to add. They really jumped at an opportunity for some land that Lacey is buying from Lot to develop into a housing project. So just sharing that.
Aren't they a part of our affordable housing advisory group?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so they've probably seen the letter.
Yeah, and I think that they were invited to some of the meetings and have been able to attend one or two of them, so they're aware of
They're on it.
what's
Okay.
happening. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Does that answer, or would you like staff to do more follow-up, Carolyn?
If they're aware of it and they've been to a couple of meetings, I don't see any need for more staff follow-up, but it just seems like that's a logical agency that should be signing on to it if they have the interest in doing so.
Yeah. And I imagine that this is a coalition that will grow over time. So
Yeah.
Anyone can sign on at a later date.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, well, there is a motion, it's been seconded. Is there any more discussion on this? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is it clear? I did say aye. Anyone again, say nay. Okay. Motion passes. And then we'll move on to what are the next steps for that? So Krista?
Yes, so I will I'll update the letter to add the RHC sign on. And then I will share with the group that's been meeting locally, just make sure I haven't missed anybody, and then we'll send that off formally to the Black Home Initiative leadership. And I'll follow up with any additional information that's needed or any follow-up steps.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your work on this. It's very exciting. Okay. Wow, we're like way ahead of like schedule. You guys are killing it. Okay. Next is the 2025 legislative agenda. Tom, do you want to lead?
Sure, thank you. So really just wanted to start the discussion around getting ready for the 2025 legislative session. So you will recall last year, the Regional Housing Council came up with a list of legislative priorities. It's in your packet and it's being shared on the screen with kind of 3 legislative priorities were listed as the top. These were then shared with all your jurisdictions, and your jurisdictions kind of incorporated these into your own jurisdictional legislative agendas. Each jurisdiction, I think, did it maybe slightly differently in how they incorporated those. So really wanted to start the conversation this year of, I think there's kind of 2 parts to this conversation. One is, do we want to do a different process? Is there another way for the RHC to elevate our priorities, to get them, to increase the visibility of our priorities? And then the second part would be starting that conversation of what are the actual priorities we want to have? Do we want to make any changes from these? But I think that really wanted the conversation today around, is there a different way the RHC wants to approach putting forward legislative priorities and getting them out, getting them up to the legislatures to make them as effective as possible. So the RHC, the tech team does not have any specific recommendations to bring to the RHC today. Really just wanted to start the discussion.
Okay, who wants to start? I can start. I have thoughts. Is there? Oh, sorry, Danny. I did not see your hand raised. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good. I had a question for Tom. I'm trying to remember. Did we engage our advisory boards when we did this last year?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
And I looked just into others, but I believe this was primarily a tech team. We were a little pressed for time, but
Yeah.
no, it's a good question, but I don't believe we did.
Okay, well, I mean, that's something that I think we should consider when it comes to process, is getting some feedback from advisory boards I think sometimes this all of us are sitting around the same tables here in this Zoom room with each other, and I'd be curious to think about like what is it that we don't have that's right in front of us that that folks with lived experience and other types of expertise on our advisory boards might have some thoughts that we wouldn't consider on our own. So that's what comes to mind in terms of process. And then even like looking at like these top 3 things right here. And then like even looking at this first page, I'm like, wow, all of these are still super big priorities. So I think starting with what we've got here and like, what is still needed on this list. And I think a good first step would be to approach our advisory boards and see if they would like to offer feedback.
Thank you. I was thinking kind of along those same lines, and I saw the legislative priorities and I was like, yeah, we still need all of those. There's still a huge need. So I was like, I'm not sure if it's going to change much, but I think that's a great idea to engage our advisory groups and kind of get their opinions on and their thoughts on what our legislative priorities should be and moving forward from there. I guess the next request or the next question I have for the RHC as well, right, is how do we want to spread the information out this year, right? Do we want to do it like we did last year and send a copy to each of the jurisdictions and request the jurisdictions to promote this as well as their legislative priorities? How do we engage? And so just as we move forward, just kind of having those thoughts in your head and seeing what are other ways that we can engage our legislators. Carolyn?
Well, speaking from Lacey's point of view, even though it was kind of a rough job last year, I think the process worked pretty well. And we were able to, at our meeting with legislators, provide both the RHC priorities as well as the City of Lacey's priorities in one tidy package. And it seemed to be pretty well received. And, without an executive director, I think it would fall, to the chair and co-chair to try to have meetings with individual legislators. And I don't know. I mean, are you all prepared to do that?
Our chair probably can't, given his day job with the legislature.
I don't think
Exactly.
It was very clear on that.
Yes.
Because I was like, it would be good to have a representative from the RHC attend the legislative breakfast that is done every year and kind of have, that. And I was like, well, maybe it should be the chair of the RHC. And Michael was very clear that he could not engage in that.
So it's on you, Carolina. Congratulations.
I know. I tap out. So I guess just what I'm hearing is just based on last year's, let's send this over to our advisory groups and kind of get if they have any additional thoughts or things that should be included or a shift in priorities, and then we can pick this up once they've had a chance to process this.
I saw Charlian nodding, but just want to make sure that as our advisory group person here, that does sound like a good path for us.
Right. I think to be effective, we're going to need to set a timeline on this, though. So a deadline to get and incorporate the feedback. I think we need to be ready to roll by November.
Okay. I saw Jacinda and then Sharlaya, do you still have a comment? Okay, so. Jacinda?
Carolyn, we were thinking along the same lines. And just wanted to clarify, as co-chair, co-liaison, wow, for our Affordable Housing Advisory Board, is the request to take the 2024 priorities that we just had up in the screen and included in the packet to the board with an ask of, do you all want to include these again for 2025 and expand on them? I guess, like, sorry, I'm not being very clear. Is your all's desire for them to look at last year's priorities and weigh in on if those are still applicable this year? And then additionally, yeah, I think a timeline would be really appreciated. The county will be going, launching their RFP in January, which means our board starting September and into October will be considering funding priorities. So knowing kind of when you all want to see this back, so Alex and I can squeeze it in, will be really helpful.
I was just gonna say essentially the same thing. And then I would also add, I imagine there will already be some of our TAHAB members will be at working with legislators this year. I would also be happy to be tapped in for anything.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Okay, so I guess 2 is timeline, and the other one is exactly what it is that we want our advisory groups to kind of what we would want their input in. Jacinda, did I say that right? Okay. Okay, any thoughts? Danny?
Yeah, in terms of timeline, like the sooner the better, because the closer we get to the start of session, the busier legislators get, and it's harder to get information in front of them in a way that is gonna actually, they just get bombarded. So, the sooner the better, with understanding that everybody's very busy and we're limited by meeting schedules and stuff like that. So that's my feedback on the timeline, if that's helpful at all. In terms of like, what specifically like we want, like what we might want to have in the agenda. I think that we should start with what we worked through last year, especially if everything on there is still a priority. I know that the top 3 are still critical for us to continue to do the work that we do here in the region. Rent stabilization is still very important, and I understand may have more momentum this year. So a review of what we looked through last year. And I would also, caution against not making it a book. There's a strategy to getting to like, the things that we think are actionable in this coming session, the very critical budget needs that we have, and sometimes if you throw all the spaghetti at the wall, none of it sticks, right? So I think we just need to be strategic in terms of having something that is digestible, actionable, realistic, and impactful.
Thank you. Sometimes a noodle does stick, Danny. Okay, Carolyn.
Was just looking ahead at the calendar, and in November, our meeting is on November 13th, so we don't conflict with the Thanksgiving holiday. So my question is, well, my suggestion is we have a packet approved, that we can approve at that meeting. We'll have a late October meeting, so I'm wondering if we could set the deadline for that October meeting to have the feedback That would give, well, a good almost 2 months time to receive it and massage it if
Go ahead.
well, that's it. I started to add
Oh.
another sentence and then I thought, no, that's it. So sorry.
We do have a lot to work on, but I think we could do the next meeting, which is third Thursday of September, I believe, and get it to y'all for the next RHC. If we just, that way we can keep them like tight, limited. Because I will be honest, we're talkers at the TAHAP, so. And I assume, not to speak, I don't believe the other advisory board's chair is here, but I assume that also is open for them as well.
Of course.
Okay. So just to give staff some clear direction, so what do we say? I feel for it coming to the board and in November and then distributing it to all the jurisdictions, December is, I remember the legislative breakfast is usually early in December, so maybe asking for it to be back to the RHC by October meeting, is that too tight of a deadline? I just also want to have enough time for it to get around to the jurisdictions and for everyone to have it in time as their. Jacinda?
Carolina, we can add it to our September agenda. And have something to you all for the October meeting for kind of a first set of eyes, I guess, with that goal of either approving at that RHC approving at the October meeting or November meeting if need be.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, I think for the tech team, we can make that happen. I think that's a reasonable time frame.
Okay. And then in terms of input that we're looking for, is there any additional remarks on that piece? No? Jacinda, do you have any follow-up questions for okay. I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, so are we good to go for the 2025 legislative agenda, the timeline and kind of the process we've laid out? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to our next item then, which is Pathways to Removing Obstacles, PRO Housing Funding Opportunity. Darian?
I'm gonna quickly pass it over to Jacinda.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we wanted to come to you all today and give you just some exciting news around pro housing in general. You all may recall that this is funding from HUD that was made available last year, and City of Olympia and City of Olympia and Thurston County as a multi-jurisdictional entity applied. We were not awarded funding, but got some really good feedback just very recently. And then on the heels of that feedback, a new round of funding is available. So we have 100 million available. So slightly larger pot of money than last year's 85. HUD anticipates awarding about 30 awards this year, and we are planning to move forward, City of Olympia and Thurston County, and we invite any of you to have conversations if your jurisdictions are interested in partnering as well, to put in another application. As a reminder, this is funding that the goal of the funding is to remove barriers to affordable housing. It's fairly broad in terms of HUD is looking for us to tell them what our barriers are locally and then propose some solutions for overcoming or reducing those barriers. So we are working on some wonderful things. Much of the application will be similar to last year, including some feedback from HUD specific to kind of expanding our geographic area, making sure that we are really offering resources in the Grand Mound Rochester area, which is a high need or high geographic priority area to HUD. So first, just kind of wanted to share all that with you again, that we are, again, going after this funding, see a huge need for it in the community, and invite anyone to engage with us if they so choose. We're on a very tight deadline, again, similar to last year. Our goal is to have that grant, fairly large grant, written in kind of final draft form by around September 20th. We'll then go into a 15-day public comment period. We're planning to bring that to Olympia City Council for a public hearing around October 8th, and then it's due October 15th. So tight timeline, but if anyone wants to learn more or is interested in engaging with us or partnering, we invite you all to reach out to Tom or I, probably myself, and happy to fill you all in or take more time if there's any questions now.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'm just super excited about, you know, round 2 with this application. Home ownership is such a tough nut to crack. I mean, all of these housing issues that we work on are really tough, but this one seems like it needs special dedicated resources. So really, really grateful for the county jumping in on this effort. Thanks all.
Yeah.
Carolyn, no, go ahead.
I didn't see information on this in our packet. Is there something in writing that we could share with our staff?
Yes, Carolyn and anyone who is interested, we have kind of like a concept PowerPoint, you know, some kind of high level that identifies those barriers we're focusing on, primarily organizational capacity, especially around the home ownership realm. We don't have a lot of organizations working in that field. Resources available to help build new home ownership housing, financing and such. And then and resources available to the home buyers or homeowners themselves to access housing, such as down payment assistance and home buyer counseling. So I do have kind of a high level PowerPoint that I'm happy to send off if you all want to share it however you wish.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you, Jacinda. Okay. So we're going to receive that via email for those of us who need more information. Okay, anything else on this item? Nothing, okay. So yeah, just thank you to staff for really all of your work. This is very exciting. And with that, we'll move on to our next item, which is the RHC social media review. And Lisa Sparkman, and we have until like 6 o'clock. So if you need an hour, just kidding.
Yeah, I actually have an hour planned, so I hope everyone's comfortable. This is going to take a few minutes. So I'm Lisa Sparkman. I work for the county, but I'm specifically the communication specialist to the RHC. So managing the RHC communications, and part of the communications plan for 2024 was to take a look at how we're doing social media for the RHC in the summer, so about halfway through the year. So I have a PowerPoint with a little bit of a review. All right. So the way that we're currently doing social media with RHC branded content is that it posts generally to Thurston County Public Health and Social Services accounts, which is Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter. Most people still just call it Twitter, so that's what I'm going to do. And then the partner jurisdictions, I make sure that their communication people know, have the content so they can post it themselves to each jurisdiction account if they want to. Also let them know when it's posting to the Thurston County accounts so that they can just share it. So they have the option. So that's currently the procedure that we have right now. We don't have RHC specific social media accounts. And so one of the points of this review is to consider, do we need RHC specific accounts, or should we continue to do it as we're doing through the jurisdictions? So here's all of the posts that were done the first 6 months of the year. So January through June. And these are the Facebook engagement numbers or statistics, and Instagram and Twitter. So Facebook has the largest number of views. So impressions is the number of times it came across anybody's screen or kind of feed. And then reach is the unique individuals whose screen it came across. So you'll see reach is just a little bit smaller. So impressions counts people who maybe saw it more than once. And then engagement means that the person clicked on the link, liked or reacted to the post, commented on it, or shared it. So Instagram just has reach and engagement, and Twitter just has views. So that's what the statistics look like. You should have this in your packet if you want to look at it a little more closely. So some examples of the posts that we do some kind of basic announcements, some kind of more specialized announcements like recruiting for the advisory boards. And we share what's going on with housing and the RHC. So there was sharing of the Rights of Way 2023 snapshot, for example, and then some education. So we did some posts for Fair Housing Month and National Homeownership Month. And so my recommendation is to continue as we're the way that we're doing it right now. It still seems like when you have your own social media account or an RHC specific one, we would want to be posting content like every day, really, to be a good, effective social media account. So it seems like we don't really have that much content currently to support having RHC specific accounts. So my recommendation is to keep doing it how we're doing, but I'm open to ideas and other thoughts. So that's the presentation. If there's any discussion, questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Danny, go ahead.
Lisa, sorry if you said this, but with the statistics that you shared, is that from like, did all the jurisdictions share what they got, or is it just what Thurston County saw?
It's just Thurston County, but the majority of jurisdictions share from Thurston County, so that is captured.
Got it. Okay. So it's
through like impressions and reach.
Okay. Thanks for that. I tend to agree with you. Social media works best when you are pumping out content, and if we're not as a body pumping out a ton of content, but Thurston County has a bunch of content that it's going along with, that makes the most sense to me. And I appreciate you like identifying formerly Twitter. I was reading an article today where they just said X, and it was like, is that a typo? Like, what is that? And it took me a moment to realize that they just didn't include formerly Twitter like everybody else does, and I got super confused. So yeah, stick with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, any other comments? Carolyn?
I would just say good stuff, Elisa. I was really pleased with this.
Yeah, I echo. I think you've been doing just such a great job and getting the message out and being sure that whatever goes out is in plain language and that it's just, it's readable and it's pleasant to the eye. So just you've been doing such a great job and really appreciate the work that you've done. And I agree with you in terms of not creating our own profile. And just kind of keeping on with what we've been doing. Any other comments? I'm trying to keep us here to at least 5 people. Come on. I don't want Michael to say that, he left and I'm ending meetings super early.
Hey, we're just so much more efficient without him here.
Well, he would be jealous.
Okay, Lisa, anything else? Are you sure?
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we've reached the end of our agenda, so it's good of the order. And Leah, just to make sure that our 2 registered people who for public comment did not show.
So it's unclear. There's one person in the attendees that called in via a phone number, and there's no title to their name. So I guess not sure how to identify them as.
Okay.
We can just ask if there's any of the attendees want to make public comment, they can use the raise hand function.
Not seeing any raised hands.
Okay. Okay. So with that, we'll move on then to good of the order. And does Michael go through each jurisdiction? City of Olympia? Anything?
I don't have anything to share, so I'll defer to staff to see if there's any updates. No, we good?
Okay, City of Lacey?
Yeah, likewise. So if Ryan and Jennifer have anything to add?
Good on our end, thanks.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you. City of Tumwater?
Well, I'm currently channeling Michael, and I think he's kind of upset by some of the previous comments, but we'll get to that at another time. We don't have any other updates aside from the fact that we're knee deep in working on our housing element and updates and all the associated code things that are going to be supporting a lot of the affordable housing goals that we've been discussing.
Perfect. City of Yelm?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, and Thurston County, we do have one item. So in our executive meeting with Michael, we discussed moving our meetings to being Zoom only. Just that sometimes the hybrid model, either all in person or all via Zoom, what we have noticed is that the hybrid models tend sometimes to be very difficult. And just based on having staff getting everything prepared. And so just wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on it. Not hoping for a decision today, I guess, but just as we move forward, having these meetings only via Zoom. Danny?
I don't mean to be the first to raise my hand.
You're ready to go. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, considering there's like a 4 o'clock start time, to have to like leave work early so I can commute to an in-person location is less than ideal. I do prefer Zoom. And as you said, Carolina, it's just challenging when, half the people are in Zoom, half the people are in person. My vote, if we were taking a vote tonight, would be Zoom.
Carolyn?
I would tend to support Danny's comments. While I think a meeting is richer if we're there in person, it has been awkward. And I know myself, I have a a meeting that comes right on the heels of this one, and it makes it very difficult. And I often have to choose, am I going to be zooming in on this one, or am I going to be zooming in on that one, or how do I race from one to the other? So it's tough. So I would support all Zoom.
Thank you. So Tom, I guess I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I think, I know we said we weren't gonna kind of formal, but we can plan on moving forward on a Zoom only. We'll just make sure to update the website so the public is aware. And, you know, we can always revisit that decision, but we can move forward if that seems to be the consensus of planning on Zoom only moving forward, and we can revisit that at any time if there's interest in doing so.
I guess at least for the next meeting, let's do it via
Good.
Zoom only, and then once Michael
Right.
comes back, then it can be a formal decision given.
I might add something on our end. So since the city of Lacey was hosting those meetings in our meeting room, you know, if we do get a special accommodation request from somebody maybe that doesn't have access to the internet or Zoom or wants to participate, we will keep that meeting room held and are willing to set that up should somebody have that request. So that's always an option. Or if, you know, certain members of the RHC want to be in a room, happy to kind of revisit that and make that the hybrid space. I guess what I'm saying is that we'll keep the meeting room reservation in case something was to happen.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay. And then for good of the order, Tom, is there anything else from Thurston County? Or I'm just going to defer to staff as well if there's
I don't have anything else.
Okay. And I'm not seeing anyone else. Okay.
It's 5:02. Can we go, Carolina?
Yeah. So it is 5:02. We reached the end of our meeting. Our next RHC meeting is Wednesday, September 25th at 4 p.m. and it's going to be via Zoom only. And so with that, we're adjourned.
Cool.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.